These are victims of tidal waves in two communities near Sege count their losses.
Speaker of Parliament says undue political patronage is affecting work of Parliament.
First-year senior high school students in school.
Reconstruction of Apiati by the end of April.
And 168 people still missing in train attack in Kaduna, Nigeria.
This is News Hour coming to you live on GBC News and GTV. Hello, good evening. I'm Seyoko Kwakutre.
Good evening. My name is Shirley and Jonathan Intim Dako translates the news into sign language. Hundreds of residents of Aplagbanya and Anyamam, both near Sege in the Greater Accra region, are reportedly relocating to adjoining communities to put up with relatives as tidal waves sweep through the area. The sea action, which began on Saturday and is said to be showing no sign of up, has brought down a number of buildings and caused destruction to boats, fishing nets, outboard motors, and some personal effects. In an interview with GBC News, the Adam West District Chief Executive, Mr. Samson Bankba, said more than 500 pupils who attend the Aklabanya DA Basic School are unable to go to school.
Because it has submerged about 100 households at Anyamam and then about 150 households at Aklabanya. We are planning the sea defense, which we think it will not be quite long that the government would start to construct the sea defense by quick money. When I went to the minister and then the other government stakeholders, I was told it will not be long. But then for the first 8 months, we are planning to those that are immersed into the water. We provided what we call safe havens for them. They are lodging at the classroom blocks and then some of them in the chapels. The national officers from the region are on their way coming, for which talk about some first aid items like bed and rice, mosquito coils and buckets and some floors food.
The Member of Parliament for North Tong, Mr. Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, says the government must accelerate the efforts to control tidal waves in the country, with the problem becoming recurrent. His concern was made during the third day of debates on the State of the Nation address by the legislature.
I do hope, Mr. Speaker, that we will find an emergency solution in the interim as we come together as a nation to put together a long-lasting solution. I think it is an indictment on us as leaders of this country that we have not addressed this matter once and for all. I note, Mr. Speaker, that His Excellency the President has still not commented on this recurring natural disaster. I observed that going through the message on the State of the Nation, the President spent copious amount of time speaking to other tragedies which are important. If you compare the contingency vote of 2021, it was 186 million that this House approved. In the 2022, the contingency vote saw an increase of about 435%. It is for situations such as this, situations that you may not have budgeted for, that you may not have envisaged. So we have 933 million Ghana cedis in approvals by this House in the 2022 contingency vote. It is important that we put that money to use when natural disasters of this nature occur. So our heart goes out to the good people of the Keta, Ketu South, Anglo enclave.
Major state monuments around the coastal belts of Ghana are under threat due to coastal erosion. These were some of the concerns raised by the director of the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, Professor Kwesi Appiah-Nado, at his inaugural lecture at the University of Ghana, Legon, on the topic Continued Struggle for Space Coastal Erosion in Ghana.
This lecture, I will present the various coastal erosion challenges along Ghana's coast, the changing dynamics of the coastal zone, the drivers of change in the coastal zone, the impact of these changes in the coastal systems, and our response to the coastal erosion challenges.
According to the study, the Christiansborg Castle, which is also the former seat of government, the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum and the Independence Square, among others, could just be washed away if the necessary environmental measures are not taken.
Ghana's coastal zone covers only about 7% of the total land. However, it is occupied by about 1/3 of the population and home to over 70% of our industries. The coastal zone is increasingly becoming overcrowded, with various sectors of the economy pushing for space, not only for food and resources, but for several other activities, including tourism and leisure, transport, telecommunications, aquaculture, and renewable energies, which require adequate space with conducive environmental conditions for their operations. Globally, coastal infrastructure development clears existing coastal vegetation and other landforms, thus leading to what we term the ocean sprawl. Modeling shoreline and land cover change within the coastal zone over 30 years revealed the extent of the conflict between humans and the sea. It was observed that while the shoreline is moving inland at a rate of about 2 meters per year, approximately 8,500 square meters of coastal land is lost to human development annually in Ghana.
Professor Kwesi Appiah-Nado added that issues of coastal erosion in the country is not new, but the intensity and severity of its occurrence calls for rapid response.
There is an urgent need for a national discussion on the way forward in managing our coastal erosion problems, since the one-solution-fits-all problems approach is unsustainable, environmentally unfriendly, and difficult to maintain.
A special citation was given to Professor Kwesi Appiah-Nado for his enormous contribution in preserving the environment and helping to improve on sanitation in the country.
It's back to school to continue with the school year for SHS students. On GBC News' visit to some schools in Accra on the first day, all was well, indicating a successful admission process for most schools. Here is the report.
Campuses of schools visited were virtually quiet, giving a semblance of normal school day. Management at the Accra High School has set out tables for specific courses, which made the registration of students easier and faster. Some parents were happy this process was not cumbersome as it has been in the past. Some also said items bought for the awards were on the high side, but they were fine because they will not pay fees. Mr. Reginald Domi talked about the process.
It's very simple compared to what I thought. So I just pray it will always be simple like this.
At the St. Thomas Aquinas School, registration for 131 out of the 256 students expected were already through, with the process at the time of visit and orientation for students also underway. Mr. Joseph Doe Ejani spoke to GBC News.
The admission form was given to us to go fill, and then there were some portions where we were supposed to sign as parents and guide. We did everything, and then we're asked to bring them today. And then we're asked to buy some few items. It was around 200 Ghana.
Joseph Doe Ejani Jr. was happy to have gained admission to his first choice at St. Thomas Aquinas School. Laboni Senior High School used the electronic system for the registration exercise. According to a source, the only challenge had to do with documentation, as some parents did not know what to come along with to the school for the admission. Some of the documentation expected are school placement form, result slips, health insurance card, admission form, acceptance letter with an undertaking from parents, birth certificate, and personal information. Secondary schools will no longer run the double track system, as government announced the end to that a few days ago.
Students are heading back to the classrooms, and so parents also have their list of items to buy, but many complain that prices are now skyrocketing and through the roof. Booksellers lay the blame on publishers and writers for the increase in prices, as parents also say the government must regulate prices and communicate same to book producers and the sellers.
Almost all the bookshops GBC News visited showed a general increase in prices of books few days after the Ghana Education Service announced the reopening dates for first-year senior high school students. Some parents are of the view that booksellers particularly took advantage of the short sudden announcement of the reopening of the schools to increase prices of books, as parents are left with no option but to buy. A bookseller, Yaan Ponsa, admitted that indeed prices of books have shot up compared to last year, but also explained that the prices are determined by publishers or writers.
The producers are complaining that there is an increase in paper in the market. So they have also increased their product, the prices of their product. So we go according to the prices of their product and sell. So even if you go to where they sell the papers, every week there have been an increase. And so when they also bring it, they sell it according to how they buy it, and we also put our profit in it as well.
A parent, Isaac Ufosuhine, called on the government to postpone the reopening date to somewhere after Easter to give parents adequate time to prepare.
It's not easy for we parents. We just went last week for the school placement, and they said the students will report today. So it has become a stress on we the parents. This particular bag, it was selling 180 Ghana. Now it's selling 250, 300. I bought a pack of exercise book. Last year that's 18 Ghana cedis. Now it is 25 Ghana cedis.
Another parent, Yusuf Mohammed, added his voice to the call for government to postpone the reopening date for the first year SHS students.
There's no fixed price. Some sellers have doubled the price. We pray the publishers help us with the pricing.
Overall, booksellers say the Akiola series are the highest priced books from the publishers. The St. Mary's Seminary School in Lolobi in the Oti region now has a fully furnished 8-unit dormitory block. The project was supervised and completed by the old students of the school. When he commissioned the facility, the Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend John Intimfojo, assured students and staff of transforming the school into a first-class institution.
Established in 1961, the St. Mary's Seminary Senior High School, SMASCO, is noted for high academic performance and discipline. But in the last 2 decades, coupled with increased student population, the school has gone through some challenges in terms of infrastructure, which has affected teaching and learning. The Old Students Association, SMOBA, instituted the SMASCO facelift project to contribute its quota in solving some of the problems. They renovated some old structures and also completed some abandoned projects in the school. One of the main projects was the completion of an 8-unit dormitory block, which comes with modern washrooms and a 10,000-litre mechanized borehole provided solely by one old boy. Father Dr. Richard Burfy, Lumpkin Foundation USA, also provided some water storage facilities. School, Reverend Father Felix Maupemo Kofi Akpa, says the school has not benefited from any project associated with the free senior high school policy introduced by government
As a matter of urgency, each of you should personally and single-handedly take one of our challenges and deal with it for us. And we shall remain very grateful to you by boldly writing your name on the project you carried out.
The president of the St. Mary's Old Boys Association, SMOBA, Mr. James Kwesi Obeko, called on stakeholders to play active roles to restore the school to its former glory.
Not only in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of everything that goes into the training, so that as we produce those ones to facilitate the learning and teaching, we also find a way to ensure that the results keep improving.
The Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend John Intim Fojo, assured the chiefs, staff and student body of massive lift for the school.
St. Mary's is not a small school at all. St. Mary's is one of the greatest stars we have in this country. It is not only the star of Lolobi, it is just bigger than being a star of OT region. It is one of the biggest stars in this country, and will give the necessary support to ensure that you do not only go back to the old glories, but you even shine brighter than the times of old.
The projects were later commissioned.
Some very traditional Ghanaian foods or dishes are gradually missing from the menu both at home and in restaurants due to the introduction of foreign foods into the country. One typical Ghanaian dish being edged out is ofam. It is typically a favorite for the Equiapim in the eastern region. On Chopology today, we sample the culinary skills of 77-year-old woman Madame Jessie Ajimfra at her residence at Latte in the Equiapim North Municipality of the Eastern Region. She has prepared ofam commercially for over 40 years. Traditional dishes are passed on from generation to generation and sometimes have additions over the years. They are foods peculiar to various parts of the country. In some instances, the dishes are loved in more than one region. Today, we'll tease you with ofam. Ofam is basically a spicy ripe plantain cake. They say it is a great way of using overripe plantains which will soak up too much oil when fried or will be too soft when boiled. Nonetheless, perfectly ripe plantain can also be used. The people of Equiapim love ofam. They spice it with ginger, onion and garlic, which is optional. In its preparation in terms of mixing the flour with the ripe plantain mixture. While some prefer to use rice flour, others also prefer to use corn flour. According to Madame Jessie Ajimfra, who is from Latte, preparing ofam has been one of her hobbies and she happily makes it for close friends on order or from the family. Growing up, she learned to make ofam from her grandmother and mum and got better at it with time. Even though that was not her main occupation, she was ever ready to prepare ofam for any occasion when the need arose. Madame Ajimfra tells us what accounts for the virtual disappearance of some of her traditional foods.
Young age group, no, Eresa. Thought I say, yeah, go. Young, I am no years, and we are no. If you say, me ba na me nena. Only we said the aye into no nama ye ni akwaji aborofun nuane ne ade ho enti obi a wanyi nkakra ana so nyi kra na oka no hu se aduan sa ede ni ade a nama enije no ko.
She said it is important for such foods to make a return to menus at homes and in restaurants, especially for the younger generation.
You're still watching News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. The Apiatsi Community Restoration Project is set to commence at the end of April 2022. The fundraising campaign has so far yielded 35.8 million Ghana cedis. The Apiatsi support says, although the cash received so far is not sufficient, the proposed Green City project will take off as scheduled.
The magnanimity of Ghanaians who have generously donated has helped us to raise to date an amount of 35,884,423 Ghana cedis and 90 pesos. This amount includes donations from corporate organizations as well as patriotic individuals. It also consists of donations in kind. The list of the corporate institutions and patriotic individuals has been captured in the bank statements of the fund. At the appropriate time, this list will be published in the dailies for utmost transparency. This amount notwithstanding, we are far from reaching what we will call sufficient funds. This is because the extent of damage to the Apieti township cannot be overemphasized, and this amount raised so far will not be adequate. The community has been displaced, they have lost their livelihoods and their homes. We are grateful for your support. We are confident that you will enable us to stand in partnership and work together in rebuilding an eco-friendly green Apieti. This ought to be our common commitment.
Fire has razed over 100 shops and stalls at the Takoradi Temporary Market in the Western region. Several items running into thousands of cedis were destroyed in the fire.
Traders at the Takoradi Central Market were relocated to the Takoradi Temporary Market to pave way for the redevelopment of the Central Market. According to eyewitnesses, smoke was billowing from some shops in the market. Before they could raise an alarm, fire had caught some of the shops, which quickly spread to other shops and stalls within the market. Personnel of the Ghana National Fire Service were able to bring the fire under control, but unfortunately, running into millions of cedis had been lost to the fire. Some eyewitnesses and traders affected by the fire recounted how the incident happened.
Don't phone shop today. I'm not making you. Yes, that's so many phones now. You're better. I'm a issue. You've been off from the Harris to move your day. No man, you remember, no one's the car on so. When your baby far, what why then? Where do we jump?
The NADMO coordinator for the Sekondi Takoradi Metropolis, Mr. James Obin, said investigation into the cause of the fire has commenced.
The little information that I cannot say it is authentic or that's the real that it was an electrical fault that resulted in that. But the fire service have told us that they could have prevented the fire as early as possible, but because there was still electricity in the market and they were not getting the ECG to put the light off as early as possible. That's why it affected a lot of stores.
The Western Regional Minister, Mr. Kwabena Ochredako Mensah, was at the scene to assess the situation.
So far, we've been able to bring down the fire. It's too early to apportion the but now fire phone on that assessments of what actually caused it and who are those affected so that we can also support them.
You're live on GBC News, and this is News Hour. We take a break, come back with more news. Please stay.
Evade taxes. You put yourself at risk of prosecution. Do the right thing. Pay your duties and taxes online, through the bank, off from your phone on time, and let's build a great nation.
Let us tell you the truth, it's not the magic that make a dream come true. It makes you achieve, but it's your hard work and your persistence.
Hello, this is Business brought to you by Quick Credit and MTN. State-owned enterprises recorded an aggregate loss of 2.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2020. The loss, however, represents nearly 50% improvement on the 2019 net loss of 5.1 billion Ghana cedis. In an earlier interview, an economist, Mr. Bismarck Osei, said the SOE structure needs an overhaul to ensure productivity that translates into profit.
Is to privatize the management of some of these SO institutions that are not making profit, not the whole institution. We can privatize the management. If we think the management is not efficient, they are not showing that sort of agility that helps to facilitate economic activity, we can do that. Secondly, we can also license the workers who work over there, where their licenses are being reviewed every year, so that people are not giving up their best to carry out the function performance. We can get rid of their license. Some of them feel that once I'm working there forever. But I think if we give them license, we expect that it will help to improve their performance and achieve that level of growth. I think some of these ACOs, I think some of them need to be merged. Some of them where their functions are similar. Let's see, is it possible to merge some of them? Let's see whether we can promote some of the activities to also get rid of these egregious expenditure. And also some of these HOC, the board of directors, I think some state-owned enterprises that their works are similar. We can get one board of that, they're not supersede about 2 or 3 of them, so that we can create these essentially expenditures we care on this board of directors. And also, I think some of the institutions, the work of load there is so much. If we take reminiscence to some of the activities, somebody take something there, it takes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Some of them should run as a 3-tier operating system, where we have the morning, afternoon, evening shift. So you look at somebody like Registrar General, Passport Office, Food and Drug Board, some of these institutions, let's run them in a 3-tier operating instrument so that they can be show some sort of agility and also show that activities that are to embark on. I think we have to put them to the test to make sure that they're efficient. We can do it. It's about pushing them to the wall.
Automobile dealers report of a slowdown in the sale of high engine capacity vehicles as fuel prices continues to increase. Crude oil hit $102 a barrel on the international market last week, pushing prices at the pump to almost 10 cedis per litre. The chief executive of Irata Motors says most of the high engine capacity cars have remained in the garage for years.
Vehicle fuel consumption has become a major deciding factor for many automobile buyers. In an effort to cut costs, many are switching to low fuel consuming vehicles. The factors driving fuel costs are many and do not seem to give a respite anytime soon. The Russia-Ukraine tensions have pushed oil prices to a high of $102 a barrel. The effect is a rise in fuel price at the pump. The chief executive of Virata Motors says this shift is affecting the bottom line. This is not the only variable affecting vehicle sale. A weak cedi, coupled with an import duty discount from 30 to 10%, is making the import of vehicles a near impossibility. A significant rise in the prices of vehicles is expected in the coming months. A litre of petrol is now selling at 9 cedis 90 pesos at most filling stations.
The big engines like the 4x4s or those cars that the engines are even more than 2.5 are difficult for people to buy because of the fuel prices. So people now wanted to get smaller cars that they'll be using in town instead of going for bigger ones.
This is not the only variable affecting vehicle sale. A weak cedi, coupled with an import duty discount from 30 to 10%, is making the import of vehicles a near impossibility. A significant rise in the prices of vehicles is expected in the coming months.
If you bring Cora in 2016, at least it shouldn't be less than 100,000 Ghana cedis, which is too much. The factors are not only with the benchmark. Factors are the cost of shipment is high still. The cost of getting the car itself is high. And the cost of the differences between our currency that is so weak now.
A litre of petrol is now selling at 9 cedis 50 pesos at most filling stations.
Let's have the interbank and commodity figures for the day. The business news was brought to you by Quick Credit at MTN. Thanks for watching.
And we have more stories from the legislature. The Member of Parliament for Pro East, is cautioning that the country is likely to return to the dark days of load shedding in the next 2 or 3 years if adequate measures are not taken to control the current power situation. The MP, who is a former Minister for Power, also alerted that Tidal plans to manage FPSO Kwame Nkrumah with what he describes as a less competent contractor.
2022, our peak power demand was 3,343 megawatts. On that day, our available power was 3,527 megawatts. So we were dangerously close to matching peak demand with total available supply. Remembering that the demand for power consumption increases between 7% and 15% every year on year. And it takes a minimum of 3 years to bring on stream a new thermal plant. We seem to be sleepwalking into a situation of possible power outages as a result of supply limitations. Hydro is now complementary rather than being the main source of our power supply. We need to set up new thermal plants. By the petroleum agreement we signed on the Jubilee Field between Government of Ghana and the partners, the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah's cost should have been fully amortized as of today. Today, new developments that are dangerous to the well-being of the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah. Tidal, the operator, is disputing that the capital cost has been recovered, and therefore the ownership of FPSO Kwame Nkrumah should revert to Ghana now. Tidal is disputing, and therefore I am calling on GNPC and Petroleum Commission to come up and declare to the good people of Ghana the status of Kwame Nkrumah, FPSO Kwame Nkrumah.
Still in Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Alban Bagbin, says he is not happy at the way Parliament suffers from what he terms political patronage. According to the Speaker, some members are in executive positions in some institutions, which makes them unable to criticize the executive arm of government. Mr. Bagbin raised the concern when he saw in newly elected executives of the Parliamentary Press Corps on Monday.
Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Alban Bagbin, inaugurated the 7-member executive for the Parliamentary Press Corps. He admonished them to work professionally with their role of ensuring accountability of government. The Corps is made up of correspondents from various media houses in the country who report from Parliament. The Dean of the Parliamentary Press Corps, Mr. Simon Ajenab, thanked the Speaker and management for their support and expressed their wish to have the opportunity to visit other parliaments across Africa and the world to learn from best practices. Parliament's Director of Public Affairs, Ms. Kate Adu, advised the Press Corps not to focus too much on politics in the House, but do more human interest stories to educate the public on the workings of Parliament. The Speaker, Mr. Alban Bagbin, said his administration will resist what he terms political patronage.
Don't allow money and political patronage, and that's one of the things we intend to fight within these 2.5 years. Money and political patronage, so that by the time we get to 2025, we have a different ball game. In Parliament today, the government party always have a lot of the members bought by the executive through patronage. They are made chairs of boards, members of boards, chief executives of some institutions, and they are members of Parliament. You know? So how can you come and criticize the same thing that you are involved in doing? That is patronage, political patronage. And we are going to look critically into our constitutional provisions to make sure that we don't allow this to continue.
The newly elected executive of the Parliamentary Press Corps will serve a one-year term.
Good evening, you're live on News Hour with Mabel Anna. Let's do some energy stories. Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh says Ghana will make good use of revenue from its oil and gas resources to promote renewable energy as the world transitions to clean energy. This, according to Dr. Prempeh, will ensure that the country is not confronted with stranded petroleum assets. The minister said the country is making efforts to overcome the challenges imposed by the energy transition agenda. Dr. Prempeh said these when an EU delegation led by the Commissioner of International Partnerships, Madame Juta El Pilanian, made a courtesy call on him at the Ministry of Energy. Ghana is a signatory to the Paris Agreement as well as other international protocols which require the country to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. The EU Commissioner said the EU is committed to providing support to Ghana's energy sector as it pursues impactful international partnerships. Now, Ghana Gas is planning to expand its infrastructure by extending the Isiama-Pristia pipeline to Burkina Faso through Kumasi to serve their Mary plant being relocated to Kumasi. Experts say, though the move is required for maximum gas utilization, it could impose financial burden on the country's already stressed fiscal situation. Speaking to GBC News, Commercial Operations Manager at Ghana Gas, Dr. Revesinopong, said the company is planning to partner investors to finance the gas infrastructure expansion project.
To expand in order to meet the demand as it stands. In terms of financing, we have so many financial structures. It's not only going for loans that could bring finance. There are also structures such as BOOT, whereby you partner with the investor. They operate for a certain number of years, recoup their investment, and they go back. So that could be done in order not to bring burden onto the government.
We now bring you some data on national power generation, Ghana's power export figures, and the water level in the Akosombo and Wi dams. That's it for the energy segment with Mabel Anang. There's more news to come. Please stay tuned.
Hey, tell me, wait. Tell me, beer.
They will worry me. Watch me, you come 1 week, Mr. Community. Oh, now,
yes. Boga, nothing. Senior, name me, and you must cut down my business is a collapse. I'm out of So, won't take quick credit, Jinka. Quick credit? Yes.
in labor and during the postpartum period should be of priority to the midwife. Also, the lives and joy of these clients are dependent on the professionalism of the midwife. It was a prompting for all students of the college.
Principal of the Bogatanga Midwifery Training College, Mrs. Christiana Amalba, reminded the students of the essence of the profession and the required discipline and commitment desired of them. She encouraged them not to spend too much time on social media, but rather take advantage of the available resources in the school to strive for academic excellence.
You should carefully apportion the amount of time you spend on your books, on your social engagement, and on social media. You must develop skills in critical thinking and be analytical as a professional. Do your assignments and submit them at the right time. And do not miss the practical sessions because midwifery is both theory and practical.
The chairperson of the advisory board of BMTC, Dr. Helen Akolga Azupogo, said it is important for all students to exhibit empathy, humility, patience, and discipline. She said the development, growth, and happiness of women and children during and after pregnancies are solely their responsibilities.
You have chosen to be trained as a midwife, a very noble profession. The joy of these women and their families will be in your hands. Their lives are dependent on your professionalism and competency. Your responsibility and the expectation of society for you are huge. Therefore, do not take your training lightly.
Some students who spoke to GBC News complained about their struggles to fully pay their school fees. They therefore pleaded with management for leniency in terms of a payment plan to settle their fees so they can have the peace of mind to study.
Majority of students that are very good intellectually and academically, they perform very well. But due to this problem or due to this financial crisis, they find it difficult to focus and then to study.
Midwives are an important link in the healthcare chain. Quality training is therefore a must to support the government's quest for quality healthcare delivery in all corners of the country. For GBC News, Peter Agengri reporting.
The Authority has received a €2.8 million grant from the European Union to upgrade its facilities to WHO Maturity Level 4. This will pave the way for vaccines manufactured in Ghana to be recommended as safe for administration by the WHO.
Per the terms of its partnership with Rwanda, Senegal and South Africa, Ghana is expected to do a fill and finish for the BioNTech drug substance produced by these countries. By 2024, Ghana is expected to produce its first batch of vaccines to be supplied to the sub-region. For these vaccines to be globally accepted as safe, there is the need to upgrade the FDA to the WHO Maturity Level 4, which makes Ghana's vaccine comparable to anywhere in the world.
They've already signed a €2.8 million grant to support FDA to upgrade FDA to maturity level 4.
The European Union Commissioner for International Partnership, Ms. Jutta Elpilainen, led a delegation which included the German ambassador and officials from the Presidential Vaccine Manufacturing Committee to inspect the laboratories, which is ISO 17025-2017 certified.
When we will be able to test them right from the point where they are being manufactured and be able to release them. That means that every vaccine batch or lot that is tested will be released by the FDA Ghana.
Beyond the COVID-19 vaccines, the FDA would also be able to regulate and support the manufacturing of other vaccines required in Ghana's expanded program on immunization. Sarah for GBC News, Accra.
The health segment of the news is brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco.